Those Hollywood nights, they drive me crazy with their constant mooning in front of my house, setting bags of dog crap on fire, not to mention playing Peeping Tom in the tree that I like to masturbate on. Granted, the Hollywood Nights is also the basis for this juvenile 1980 comedy, which also happens to be one of the 10 favorite movies of this guy. Which I guess means that I too have to like it. Sounds like another entry into So Good It's Great. Too bad I now have to find another tree to do my business in front of. The Hollywood Nights is known for containing early appearances of several actors who would go on to be big names in their own right. It was the first big screen role for Michelle Pfeiffer and Robert Wuhl, and though he was already known for his role on Taxi, Tony Danza made his big screen debut in this film as well. Plus, Fran Drescher also has a prominent role in the film. There's also Terry from Just One of the Guys, Chuckles the Clown from The Mary Tyler Moore Show, the police captain from Assault on Precinct 13, and Jeff's mom from Curb Your Enthusiasm. There's even some interesting connections behind the scenes as well, as the film was written and directed by Floyd Muttrux, who had previously done the Alan Freed biopic American Hot Wax, and was a producer on films like Freebie and the Bean, and did uncredited writing on Two Lane Blacktop. Co-story credits went to Richard Lederer, a producer on Exorcist II: The Heretic, and William Tennant, who was a producer on both Cleopatra Jones movies. The film takes place on Halloween night 1965. Even the opening credits feel a lot like a 60s drive-in movie. The film opens with eggs being thrown at the screen, a popular Halloween prank, sure, but also symbolizing that the movie might not go over well with critics. While the characters and plot certainly make up an ensemble, the center of the film is a social fraternity called the Hollywood Nights, a group of pranksters who hang out at a local drive-in next to an auto shop and spend their times pranking the absolute hell out of the local pearl clutchers. The film is often compared to both American Graffiti and Animal House. Like American Graffiti, the movie acts as a love letter to the music and cars and coming of age in the early 60s. Both films contain an ensemble cast and stories. Both feature some street racing, and whereas American Graffiti had Wolfman Jack, this one has Dr. J of KBLA. Both feature characters drifting from high school shenanigans into adulthood, and both largely take place in one night. And like Animal House, the Hollywood Nights themselves are like a street version of the Deltas, with their sophomoric pranks and gross-out shenanigans. Ironically, another one of Michelle Pfeiffer's early roles was in the TV spin-off of Animal House, Delta House. When we see the Nights together, the shit-talking back and forth between them feels like these guys really are friends and are very used to giving each other crap every night.
Halloween's over. Why don't you take off the mask? What?
Who do I look like?
You look like that asshole at the car wash.
Why don't you bite my weenie, man? I look like James Dean.
Hey, are you looking at him? He thinks you're looking at him. You asshole!
There's a lot of reasons for the movie taking place in one night, and one of those is that their main hangout, Tubby's Drive-In, is being demolished the next day by the evil Residents Association members. These villains are structured kind of like a raunchy version of the anti-rock and roll crowd in a 50s rock movie. In this movie, they're like PTA moms who are powerful enough to get businesses run out of town. Hell, I think tearing down Tubby's would just piss off the Nights even more. If you think fiery dog poop is bad, wait till you see what they're gonna do to this office complex they're building over Tubby's. But even the head of this association, Mrs. Friedman, might as well be openly cheating on her husband, grabbing the crotch of her lover Nevins at the board meeting. Maybe she hates Halloween pranks so much because she was the mom of the Razorblade kid in Halloween 2! Hey, go ahead and have some scandalous sex to get your mind off of that. Frequently in the movie, she and her lover keep trying to have sex and are often interrupted by Stuart Pankin's Dudley character.
Abracadabra, and here it is.
Oh, it's a cute little rabbit.
I call him Squeakums. I think the audience will find him amusing.
This is an incredibly busy Halloween night, by the way. Not only do we have the board members seeing over the demolition of a business, but there's a pep rally going on where Beat the Shit Out Of is drawn over their banner. A cheerleader happens to not have underwear on, which appears to give someone a heart attack and then shock this old man. I'll get to him later. There's also a talent contest. Hell, in one scene, there's a student driver out at about 2 in the morning. Even while the Knights seem to be losing their hangout, they're still getting some pledges, as one subplot has these poor bastards given the task of traveling miles on foot, naked and with tires, to get a dedication read on KBLA. One of them, by the way, is a young Mike Binder, who would go on to direct movies like The Upside of Anger, Reign Over Me, and Man About Town. Along the way, these guys do get some things to wear, where people end up thinking that they're the Klan.
Oh, shit, Mommy! Mr. Ku Klux outside the window! Get my gun! It's a Klan here!
And when they aren't thinking that they're the Klan, they confuse them for tire thieves. These guys deserve to be knights for surviving this night alone. But it's impossible to go any further without talking about the leader of the Hollywood Knights and comedy legend New Bomb Turk, played by the great Robert Wool.
And my name is New Bomb Turk.
Go, New Bomb, go! That's not Dudley, that's New Bomb Turk!
When he isn't scaring old ladies by pretending there's a dead body in his car, he's often gearing up for show-stopping moments like farting a version of Valari on stage. That's the version of the song that I remember the most to this day. Sometimes he's just practicing one-liners in front of his friends and complete strangers.
Hey, Riding Hood, want to be eaten by the big bad wolf?
Fuck you, New Bomb.
What do you get when you cross a donkey with a slice of Bermuda onion? A piece of ass that brings tears to your eyes. Did you hear about the guy with the 5 penises? His pants fit like a glove.
Oh, you piece of trash.
He has a love interest in this film with Fran Drescher's Sally, or at least kind of a love interest, since at first she's with a real square who keeps sighing at everything. So of course New Bomb is hilarious in comparison.
Turk, come over here. Now, he happens to be very hysterically funny. I put him right up there with Steve and Edie.
He does have very memorable quotes in Batman.
High school girls. I should have known better.
Yeah. Wait, what? Maybe you shouldn't say that in public. All this pent-up sexual chemistry and gloating throughout the film, I bet New Bomb is dynamite in the sack.
Turk!
What?
Did you come?
A little.
A little? What do you mean a little?
It happens to the best of us. Premature ejaculation is a price for hilarious pranks. Not only does New Bomb fart all over the stage, but in one of my favorite moments, he convinces these two characters to just drive a van over a garden, 'cause he's New Bomb Turk.
I don't think the gardener's gonna like that come Monday morning. They're gonna re-landscape Monday morning. They have the new library there. The New Bomb Turk Memorial Library.
Oh yeah, back to the greatest party and talent show ever. The prank doesn't even stop at telling the drivers to ruin a bed of flowers. The boys piss in a barrel of punch, which leads to a series of very quotable lines.
I've had this taste in my mouth before.
Does have a little whang in it. Good though.
I believe he's looking for somebody called Dick.
And there's even more pranks, as their own entry into the talent contest is to pretend to be a one-armed violinist and catch the bow with their finger to trick people into thinking it's their dick. That's pretty funny. Wait a minute. Oh, that is not funny. New Bomb is the kind of character who's so charismatic, he could probably convince you of about anything.
Go to the head. Take a roll of toilet paper, stick it all the way, and shove it all the way, and stuff it up. I don't want anything coming up. Nothing. Sure, you got your screwdriver?
Yeah.
Sure, why not? Let's lock this cop in the bathroom, plug his tailpipe up, make him slip in some piss, causing his partner to fire live rounds into the bathroom, and the cherry on top of all of that is a filthy garbage pile that probably has some moldy cherries in it. 60s, bro!
Those Hollywood nights, they drive me crazy. Those Hollywood nights.
And speaking of the cops, these are two of the best characters in the film, who don't so much arrest the Hollywood Knights, but instead just threaten them with violence and words. The delivery here is great.
You know what I'd like to do to you now, new bomb? I'd like to kick the crap out of you. I want to tell you butthole something. This shit is way out of line.
Your ass is grass. And I'm the lawnmower.
You're lying to a police officer. You little son of a bitch.
You might recognize Officer Bimbo as character actor Gaylord Sartain, who appeared in many of the Ernest films. The dialogue he has with his partner Officer Clark has some great small talk, almost like Tarantino writing for Ernest side characters.
What's the song he's got now? The
Tijuana Taxi
with
yeah.
the horn honk, the meep meep at the end of it. What the hell is that supposed to be?
Lawrence of Arabia. He's an English guy. That's popular music.
Where the hell's the story in the meep meep?
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Lawrence of Arabia doesn't have any lyrics to it. Doesn't have any words.
What do you mean doesn't have lyrics?
It's music. It's music.
But back to Stuart Pankin's Dudley character, who the cops nearly beat the shit out of in one scene. He's the nerdy loner who just wants to attend the talent show.
Yeah, well, you need a little quick energy.
Mother, they always laugh at me at that restaurant when I'm dressed like this.
It's an interesting arc he has here. The Knights terrorize the hell out of him when they act like a wolf and steal his clothing, and then he gets blamed for the stage farting.
This guy farted all over the stage up there.
His mom is concerned that Dudley is now a marked man, which seems to make him perfectly content with being kidnapped later in the film. But all he really needed was to have some drinks and become a Hollywood Knight in order to cure him of his asthma.
We're going to go to what? Let's go.
Plus, he's gonna get laid. Maybe.
Not late, mother. Laid. L-A-I-D.
The past participle of the verb to lay. I'm going to screw someone.
Or he may have just killed his mom. The mom may join this poor old man, whose reactions to the pranks are my favorite ones in the movie. What you may find surprising about the film, though, is that it actually does contain some very serious moments, and it actually has something to say about the time period that they're in. Tony Danza and Michelle Pfeiffer are a high school couple, and ironically, her character's story is that she's dreaming of making it big as a famous actress. Tony Danza is depressed because the club is dying, and he knows he isn't going to amount to much in his adulthood, fearing that she'll realize she is far too good for him.
Well, you just go in there tomorrow and knock him dead.
Why do you have to be so sarcastic? Can't you give me a little support?
And he's kind of a dick about it, too. But even more serious than that, there's Gary Graham's Jimmy Shine character, and it's his last night in Beverly Hills before being shipped off to Vietnam. Or maybe to be a fighter in Robot Jox, I'm not sure. These scenes contain many moments where they're having their last night together reminiscing.
You know, there's only 4 pledges this year. I remember when I was in junior high school, everybody wanted to be a knight.
Many of them seem to be in huge denial about how much Vietnam might escalate, and coming to grips with the realism that Jimmy may not make it back home.
If something happens to me while I'm gone, I don't know anything.
Oh, hell, that was the big one. The Vietnam, nothing like that.
I know.
This really does hit on a major theme of the movie, which is times changing and people growing up and becoming more mature.
Look, I'm telling you, man, the Knights are not breaking up, all right? It's Shorty, man. Shorty's going to college.
While the movie takes place in '65, yet has a very late 50s, early 60s feel with no mention of the British invasion, it kind of makes sense that that's the year they picked in order to symbolize a transition between the stereotypical golly gee willikers street racing and partying early 60s and the stereotypical late 60s as Vietnam crushes the spirit of some of these characters, with many of them left wondering if they too will be drafted. Tubby's drive-in closing down is symbolic of the lights going out on this kind of scene and these kind of early 60s shenanigans, with the last frame of the movie showing the Knights giving one final F you before going away for good. And the music really knows when to perfectly elevate a moment, too. Like American Graffiti, it is wall-to-wall music of that era, and it elevates moments of either romance or drama. Or even if you just want to stand outside and have a joint.
From the park you hear the happy sounds of a carousel.
Or when the Naked Tire Guys get their song played on the air with the help of the street group. The soundtrack really helps the movie with the fun, lighthearted feel of some scenes and the serious moments of others. But overall, The Hollywood Knights is funny, 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 damn funny. Though not exactly a hit with critics. One horrendous film, 0 stars? Okay, where's that still shot? There we go. The movie went on to have a pretty big legacy. It wasn't a box office smash necessarily, but it became a huge cult hit due to repeated viewings on cable television in the early 80s when channels like HBO and Cinemax were a new thing. The Ohio band the New Bomb Turks is of course inspired from this film's hero, and Melt Bar and Grilled in Ohio even has a sandwich called the New Bomb Turkey Club. The film wouldn't be released on VHS or DVD until way after its theatrical release, which, well, that's kind of a misleading cover. They're a very minor subplot in this film. The theatrical poster is much better and way more accurate. The Hollywood Knights should be mentioned alongside other films like American Graffiti and Animal House, of course, but also movies like Dazed and Confused and American Pie, which owe a lot to movies like The Hollywood Knights. Give the film a watch and don't be afraid to fart along with the soundtrack and drink some spiked punch. I have to say that, or else I'll get a burger thrown at me like the other squares.
Time to eat!